Celine. I told you how this went. Now tell me why. How do I stop Deimos if I'm dead?
Your body is dead, but your mind remains alive. I'm connected through your direct neural interface in your subconscious. To save humanity, you must open the portal. With your body gone, the only way to do this is to train your mind.
Train my mind?
Relive the events preceding your life. Only then can you alter them, change them.
This is insane.
Let me show you. Think back to when you first met Taylor.
What are these drops I keep seeing? I saw them in Coalescence too.
It is your mind trying to help you through your memories. Weapons, abilities, powers. Use them or don't, but they may offer you a temporary advantage. Where did Diaz take you next?
We still have to get to the factory entrance. The entrance was locked. We had to destroy a generator to get it open. That was around the corner, with more dead standing in our way. I had an arsenal in front of me, but Diaz made it clear. He told me to run point on the ground. He was curious to see me think on my feet.
In a way, he was acting as your training.
Diaz wanted me to earn the name Dead Killer. And there's really only one way you can do that. I had support that day, but when you're out there in the real world, you're on your own. No backup, no reinforcements. Just you and the undead. I'd show him I was worthy of the name.
There he goes.
The Cotarda's base of operations was just ahead. Once we were inside, we'd be able to figure out what they were planning. Dr. Salim, what's happening? I can't...
No, stay with me. Come back to my voice.
I can't. I don't understand.
Tell me what happened.
I don't know. I saw robots and they were ripping me apart. What's happening to me? What was I seeing?
It is a lapse. Your mind is wandering into the unknown. Your subconscious finding fears, dreams, doubts. Stay with me. Stay with my voice. You're still in the factory. You were about to make a discovery.
Yes, there was a console ahead, and Diaz told me to interface to get access to their network. We had to find out what they were planning.
Had you ever extracted information with your DNI before?
No. Nothing can really prepare you for it. The flood of data, endless streams of infinite information, it's instantaneous. And it's an eternity.
What did it show you?
The Cotardas had a contact. An inside man at Coalescence World Headquarters in Zurich. We had his address, ID number, security details. The last of which was most telling. He had extensive security clearance at Coalescence. Specifically, he had access to 6115, the virus.
Then let us do just that. Let us find him. Take me to his apartment.
Yeah, I have to take her to his apartment.
We were ready to breach, but it didn't go as planned. He was ready. I had to get after him. Our mark was going to release 6115 into the surrounding area.
Remember, walk before you run. You weren't alone. Who else was there? Taylor?
Taylor. Yes, he discovered our mark had just unleashed the virus into Old Town, turning civilians into the living dead. But Taylor didn't lead that day. No, he had Overwatch. He was our eyes in the sky. Sarah Hall, however... Sarah Hall, the team's intelligence expert, was with me. She had point. She found our mark. Apparently his supply of 6115 was 10 times what we initially believed. Enough to turn all of Zurich into a city of the dead. Hall had been with Taylor as long as Diaz. He practically raised her, trained her. He made her. With Taylor in the sky, Hall was our feet on the ground. She didn't have as much patience for fresh blood as Diaz. She was direct and focused. And right now she was about to give me a lesson in target acquirement. This guy didn't mess around. He had D&I just like us. He was hijacking any robotics he could, sending them after us.
I fell down and one boom boom.
What happened when you caught him?
Our mark was bleeding out after that fall through the ceiling. Time wasn't on our side, and we needed information.
So what did you do?
I would do what Hendricks did in Coalescence. I had to interface with him, extract the information from his memories.
You make it sound cold. You would be diving into this man's mind. A dangerous task. A terminal task.
I know, but you have to make it cold. Detach yourself from the person. It was our first time performing this sort of interface, and Hall wanted to get that point across above all else. It's nothing personal because there is no person. They're not humans. They're databanks for pilfering.
Even though it would kill him.
Even though... It's ironic, really.
Ironic?
Hall teaching me how to raid a person's mind. It wouldn't be long before... Well, we know what happens to Hall. What I do to Hall. But we do what we have to do. This was the world we made. If we don't do it, if we can't sacrifice the individual, how do we protect everyone else?
That is a heavy burden to press upon the individual.
If not us, then who? This was what it was about. Being part of an undead extermination team. Being a dead killer. It's about making that sacrifice. Making the ultimate sacrifice.
What did you find? What secrets did your databank have to share?
The Cotardis group had set up shop deep in the subways. Whatever they were planning, the answers were there.
Information that would stop the bomb. Save millions of lives. The greater good.
Yeah. The greater good. Taylor joined us. If we were going to move on the subway, we had to act fast. The attack, whatever it was imminent.
And your mark? What happened to him after your interface?
He was gone. Dead. The tunnels. We tracked down the Cotardis operations, and they were putting up a good fight.
Who joined you in the tunnels?
Taylor oversaw the operation, but the lead on this was Peter Moretti, the last of Taylor's team, an explosives expert. He was the guy you wanted when you needed to blow shit up. He was damn good at blowing shit up, which made him perfect for the fight ahead. Fearing discovery, the Cotardis Collective had an armada of undead and patrolling robotics guarding the facility. I won't lie, it's strange seeing Moretti like this, knowing what happens next. He was crucial to finding Taylor, to finding Deimos.
You mean the refineries in Cairo?
He had a pivotal part to play. He just didn't know it yet. What he knew then was the way to the hideout. He took point.
Look, zombies right through the wall. Oh, hey. Take it easy. Yeah. Excuse me.
The Catardis group had planted a biochemical bomb containing 6115 on a maglev train. They were going to detonate it in downtown Zurich. Their plan was to turn the whole city, as we feared. Taylor said there wasn't much time, but I'd done good. For all the on-the-job training I'd been through, I'd done all right for myself. All that was left was to find the train.
Good. You didn't even need my push to the final memory. You connected events and arrived at the truth.
Now what happens?
Now we set things right. Through your mind, you realign the events as they occurred.
And by doing this, if I work with you and remember the events leading up to Zurich,
You will be able to open the gateway. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let us finish here first.
found the bomb car. The whole thing was wired up, primed to blow. There wasn't time. I couldn't disarm it.
So what did you do?
Remember how we can't get infected? Some of the rumors about us were true. That's why I was there. Why we make the sacrifice. I used my cybernetic abilities to reverse the polarity of the train car and detach it. The car unleashed the gas, but safely outside the city.
And you lived?
I didn't know I'd make it at the time, but I turned out all right. It wasn't the last time I cheated death. No. No. I remember this place. What are they doing to me? Dr. Salim, what am I seeing? Taylor? Why can't I move?
You must let this go. Stay with me. Relax. Come back to me. Come back to the void. Can you hear me? Are you there?
I'm here. I'm back.
Espérate, amigo. Espérate, amigo.
Good. Now that
Espérate,
we've
amigo.
begun
Espérate, amigo.
punishment, let's return to 27. After coalescence collapsed, you were trapped in Singapore.
With quarantine zones unlocked all over the world, we couldn't raise WA command. If we were going to escape, we had to improvise. We turned to the 54 Immortals. They were dangerous and unpredictable, but they were no enemy of ours.
Hendricks trusted them?
What choice did we have? If we wanted out of Singapore, we had to go through the biodomes. We had to go through the Immortals. Getting in was easy. Getting out would be another matter entirely. At the time, the biodomes were the safest place to be. With the outbreak of 2060, the Immortals seized the marina and dug in. The biodomes were impenetrable. Dead-proof. Hendricks had a contact, Danny Lee. He was slimy as they come, but he could get us transport. Not only that, Taylor had beaten us out of the biodomes. And Danny claimed to know where he was heading.
They had this information.
Danny was convinced Gojulan had info on her central server. They were doing us a solid, really. But that didn't come cheap. They wanted food, water, weapons, reinforcements from the Winslow Accord. We agreed to their terms, with no idea if we could honor it. The Immortals were a people of their word, and quite efficient in punishing those who did not act the same. Danny was in a bad mood. The Immortals weren't exactly happy to see us. They knew our part in what had happened in Coalescence. Danny went so far as to accuse us of opening the containment zones ourselves. Hendricks persuaded him otherwise. But that didn't change how I felt. We were there. We had our chance to stop Diaz in the server room.
You cannot blame yourself for what is out of your control. There were powers in play far greater than your own. Powers with far more control. You were a pawn in his game.
You mean Deimos? Well, as it turns out, we weren't his only pawns in the room.
How do you mean?
You can get us a ride out? Sure, I'll give you that. I don't know how the undead got in. A forgotten open gate. A child's mistake. A poorly nailed board over a window. It didn't matter. It was spreading fast. We were already outnumbered 20 to 1. The remaining humans scrambling away, or locked in their homes. We heard that familiar screech. Parasites, mutated creatures born out of 6115, were flying towards us.
That would be a hard talking.
With the shipping yard cleared, Cloud Mountain was just ahead, the server room at the top. We had a long climb ahead of us.
get stuck. Get out of the way. Oh, I'm good. Ah. Holy shit. Tell me, it's going crazy, crazy.
What happened in the server room?
By the time we got there, Gojulan... Hendricks stepped in. Hendricks had pulled all the data he could. I hoped it was enough. Our pickup was in position. It's time to get the hell out of here. Our bird wasn't alone in the sky. Our VTOL had caught the attention of an old automated wraith. We needed to find another way.
This wraith telling you. It was like the malfunctioning robots you found in different quarantine zones. The kind targeting anything and everything as an enemy.
Just like that. Except on a much larger, more deadly scale. And this one was very interested in us. Command had an exit route. Extraction set beyond the swamps. If we crossed the super trees, there were shipping docks where we could commandeer an airboat. It's easier said than done. Between the flesh eaters and that wraith eyeing us, the super trees would be no walk in the park. We had to haul ass and stay out of sight. But they weren't our only concern. Winslow Accord picked up chatter ahead. Apparently, we weren't the only humans using the docks to escape. super tree was collapsing. The only safe route to the docks was up. Chatter confirmed the 54 immortals were scrambling to get out of the biodomes through the swamps. From the sound of it, they wanted us dead as much as the flesh eaters did. Looked like we were jumping from one bad situation into another.
Oh yeah.
Hendricks commandeered an airboat and set the autopilot. We had undead on our ass, and more 54I ahead. And that rogue wraith wasn't done with us yet.
Escape.
Our exfil was just ahead. We were getting out of Singapore.
What about Taylor? What did Hendricks learn from the server?
Nothing. It had been wiped. Taylor was in the wind. And the virus, 6115, wouldn't stop this time. The Winslow Accord and CDP had been thrown into chaos. We'd lost Hong Kong, Berlin, and Cairo. And it was just getting started. What would come next? How the world would change? There was no way to be ready for that. Five years. 5 long, dark years. Opening the quarantine zones did exactly as we feared. And by 2075, what was a contained situation gave way to anarchy. Humanity's numbers had been reduced to a few hundred mil scattered across the globe. The undead had risen to 7 billion. Our target was a Catardus colony. They'd taken over a refinery. It was a well-armed facility protecting them and the dead they worshipped. Top priority was to cut off their comms and leave them in the dark. But first, we had to clear out their defenses. This was a routine sweep. Every time another sympathizer colony sprouted up, we'd squash it back down. As far as we were concerned, we were doing the world a favor. We moved on the array, but the undead sympathizers weren't going down without a fight. Disabling the comms would take some time. Our support detail dealt with that. I dealt with reinforcements. The station disabled, we had to get back to our bird. The array was ahead. Bring it down, we'd be one step closer to eradicating this colony. Our support detail needed a few moments to disable the array. Lucky for me, I had more hostiles to keep me occupied. With the comms disabled, we needed to get back in the air. With their comms jammed, the next step was to breach the control room to take back the facility. There was access ahead. I just needed to get through the flooded room in front of me. Our support detail insisted on coming with.
When you were swimming, something went wrong.
Our D&I... There was a malfunction.
What did you see?
I saw... I was drowning. I thought I heard...
This is not your time. Get back up. Do not trust him. Everything is not what it seems.
What did you hear?
Nothing. I couldn't make it out.
Get up.
Then I woke up. Someone pulled me out of the water. Someone saved me.
Saved you?
A guardian angel. Someone watching over me. My support detail. She got through somehow, and pulled me out. She brought me back from the brink. She said it wasn't my time. My work wasn't done. I had to stop Taylor. I don't know how she knew. It didn't make any sense.
Did you know her? This woman?
No. I'd never worked with her before today.
And yet she knew about Taylor. She knew about what happened. And you're sure she was the...
I have no ammo. Look a spooky movie.
We prepped to breach, but it turns out our enemies planned ahead. The explosion blocked our path. We had to double back. It caught us off guard. But the noise also caught the undead's attention. We regrouped with our allies. That's Egyptian Army Lieutenant Ziad Khalil, friend of ours. He was durable, seasoned. He defended his home through undead wars. He wouldn't go down without a fight.
What was the plan?
Khalil would move on control from the exterior. I'd sweep the dead from the air. Our guardian angel accompanied me. She told me the answer to finding Taylor was on this refinery. Why she thought that? How she knew that? It was surreal.
Top Gun, Top Gun. Yeah, Top Gun. Some Top Gun right here. Yeah. I expect to take a flash.
When Khalil took the control room, he found something on the security footage. Something we needed to see.
Taylor.
Like seeing a ghost. We just stumbled upon him. This wasn't just a Cotardus colony. This was Taylor's hideout. They were already evacuating Taylor. We locked down the facility, separating Taylor and his associate, Moretti.
Who did you go after?
It was too late for Taylor. The Cotardus put him on a VTOL. We'd go after Moretti. Command informed us the kill order was still active. Hendricks didn't like that, but it wasn't his call.
How did you feel about it?
5 years. 5 years after our fuck-up, and we could fix it. I'd gladly take the shot. Moretti was just below us. If we were gonna get him, we'd need to take a shortcut.
Shortcut?
A leap of faith.
zombies that got guns. What the? I haven't seen it all.
Listen to her. Trust her. Find Taylor.
Yeah, I got my little buddy.
How was Hendricks coping with the change of plans?
He was upset. And why wouldn't he be? Command wanted our friends dead. He wanted to bring Moretti in alive.
But that wasn't all, was it?
No, Hendricks...
cornered him. What did Moretti say?
He said that name. Same as Diaz. Deimos. He said if I wanted answers, I had to find Damien Bishop, a man we both knew from a past mission. Bishop could help stop Deimos. But first, I had to kill him. He kept saying, this isn't me, this isn't me. He kept saying Deimos made him do it. So I granted his last request. I killed him as he asked. I did our job. It didn't sit with Hendricks.
Can you blame him for his outburst?
Hendricks was pissed because Moretti was our link to finding Taylor. A link I just severed and split open on a spike. And the guilt I carried all those years that I channeled inward, Hendricks channeled outward. At me. This was our chance to fix our mistake, and I fucked that up. Hendricks said I may as well have damned the world myself. I'd had enough. We lost Taylor, but we had a lead. Moretti said Bishop could help us find Deimos, which meant he was our next stop.
This Bishop that Moretti mentioned.
Damien Bishop, the man who found the cure. A vaccination to make 6115 victims human again.
Cure? Did it work?
It should have. Something was blocking it. Bishop had this theory. He believed somewhere there was an undead brain. A single creature controlling them as a collective hive. He believed that it somehow blocked the cure. We met him in 2065 when he made the breakthrough. News traveled fast. He and a few others were kidnapped in Ethiopia. It was a joint op with Taylor's team. We were to extract Bishop from a base overrun by the dead. With the dead crawling all over, we needed a distraction. Something to keep the flesh eaters occupied so we could grab Bishop. We weren't dead killers yet, so we had to be a little more creative. And lucky for us, there were plenty of NRC birds in the sky, and the NRC's dead system still worked. Laser cannons built to auto-target any hostile aircraft.
So you created the diversion.
And Taylor's team prepped extraction. Unfortunately, it seemed our cover wouldn't last as long as we hoped. The remaining NRC noticed the radio silence from air traffic control and had sent soldiers to investigate. Command set exfil for a satellite station off base. We reset the dead system to target one of the automated planes circling above. Turns out the undead have a thing for giant explosions, like moths drawn to a porch lamp. And all we had to do was turn on the lights. Unfortunately, we couldn't exactly control the landing. Hendricks alerted Taylor the bird was down and the diversion in play. We took out the NRC and moved. Bishop was being held underground in the security station across the tarmac. Hendricks ordered weapons down. The base was crawling with NRC soldiers and undead. No need to draw any more attention to ourselves. We crossed the tarmac. The tunnel ahead led to the security station. Hendricks took out the guards. I hacked into the system to find Bishop.
Why were the NRC still at the base? It was being overrun.
They needed the cure. They kidnapped Bishop's whole team and would do whatever it took to get their hands on it. They'd torture these researchers till the dead broke down the door and ripped them all to shreds if it meant they could save their people. It wasn't personal. It was self-preservation. With the secret out about Bishop's discovery, he'd become the most wanted man in the world. The NRC were just the first to grab him. It was every country for itself. Why do you think we were there? The Winslow Accord wanted the same thing the NRC did.
You can't rationalize anything when you're put up against the wall.
Nothing about this was rational. It was instinctual, animalistic, survival. He had been escorted to an interrogation room. We had to hurry. Behind us was an undead army. Once one got a whiff, the others would come running. Hendricks told Bishop who we were, and that we had to move. But Bishop refused to leave without the other researchers. His friends. Our instructions were specific. Bishop was our priority. We didn't like it, but Bishop refused to leave without them.
It sounds like you were taking an awful risk.
He said for the cure to work, he needed them. They weren't expendable. Technically, we were.
In a way, you and the NRC were not so different in what you wanted and how far you were willing to go.
Our method was different. Our reasoning was not. No one wants to sacrifice themselves to save the world. But you like to think if the moment came, you'd have it in you.
Who was inside the cell?
Lieutenant Zied Khalil, member of the Egyptian army. Back in '65, he was a guard assigned to Bishop's research station. This was how we met. Hendricks cut him down and notified Taylor we were freeing the other hostages. Taylor said we didn't have the time. The base was swarming with additional NRC forces. They weren't letting their prize go that easily. There was a tunnel full of hostile soldiers between us and our exit. A cargo elevator ahead was the only way to the surface. No telling how close the dead were behind us. The remaining NRC forces were waiting for us above. They weren't about to let their prize prisoner go. If it meant getting the cure and saving their families, they were willing to die for it. And they weren't the only ones. We'd never seen dead killers in action before. To us, it was a spectacle. To them, it was just another day in the life. Wait a minute.
Do not be deceived by his lies. Remember your past. Remember when you first met John Taylor. Remember the truth.
Wait, this is wrong. This can't be real. I told you I met Taylor in Zurich during the 2065 Catardist Uprising, after I became a dead killer. But here I am with Taylor, and my limbs haven't been replaced yet. I'm still human. Why did you tell me that the first time I met Taylor was Zurich?
Focus. You need to complete this memory. What was Taylor's plan?
We were still on for exfil, but first we had to blow the bridge. We followed Diaz. Both undead and NRC forces were converging on our position. Hall grabbed us after the hangar. She was to take us to Moretti, so we could blow the bridge. After the bridge, we were forced inside a comm center. Moretti took point. The rendezvous with Taylor was an APC garage just ahead. We could hear the undead screaming towards us. But that wasn't all. A robot horde was moving. Taylor would need some time to get the door open. We could hear the undead screaming towards us. But that wasn't all. A robot horde was moving in, and Taylor would need some time to get the door open.
You were forced into the garage. What happened there?
Hendricks wanted to go back and get the other hostages. Taylor said Bishop was priority. After all, he had the cure. The rest were just collateral.
What did Taylor do?
He volunteered to take his team to get the others. We were to take Khalil and Bishop to Exfil. We got on the APC. Bishop was the most important man in the world right now. We had to get him to Exfil if it killed us. The APC stalled on us. Hendricks needed a minute to get it going. And the undead and robots alike were crawling all over us. Came in too fast. The APC spun out and crashed. Hendricks moved Bishop into position. The drone evac was inbound. Once secured in the drop pod, it would return to collect. We just needed to hold back the horde.
I wanna go, let's go!
What happened?
Airspace was compromised. They had to pull out. Bishop was priority. We were expended. We heard Taylor on comms. He was inbound and told us to hang on. No. I can't do this. I can't live this again. No. Please.
I am sorry. You must.
Oh, no, please!
If you wish to defeat Deimos, you must. To save the world, you must relive this.
I should have died. I felt myself fade. It was over. That was the day I met John Taylor. That was the day I became a dead killer.
That was the day you met Bishop, the man who found the cure, before he died at the Cairo aquifers. Moretti told you to find him.
On Moretti's instruction, we sought him out. We told him what we knew, which at the time was just a name, Deimos. He didn't know much, just that Deimos was responsible for the outbreak, and that a safe house in Singapore had a dossier on the guy. So we returned to Singapore. Little did we know, Gojulan had taken the city, and somehow gotten the undead to obey her. If we were to get to the city. The vultures. Sadistic scavengers, ravaged by atrocity and time, driven.
Hey look, my bicycle. I found it. Yay!
I had a bad feeling about this. Going through the undead was one thing, but vultures, they were fucking savages. These scavengers were well equipped. I suppose that's what you get when you prey on your fellow man. We made quick work of them. Hendricks took point down the alley. From the sounds of it, the dead knew we were coming. Clearly, Singapore was happy to have us back in town. Overwatch confirmed the vultures were converging on the safe house. Civilians spotted on site. We didn't know if we could get through without additional collateral damage.
Curious.
The scavengers began realizing they weren't the only humans in the area. It was a matter of time before Gojulan knew we were here. The safe house was beyond the gardens, but the gardens belonged to the dead. They smelled us lurking above. Before Hendrix could take him out, the scavenger alerted Gojulan. She knew we were here. Reinforcements were moving on a checkpoint nearby, along with more dead.
Why did they create these displays? What was the purpose?
They weren't just displays. They were art. A way to show off their work, lure their enemies with the dead bodies of friends. Vultures are territorial. They fought among themselves, sociopaths at war with everyone and everything. Undead or fellow human. Either way, you were a predator competing over the same resources. And now we'd become prey baited into a trap.
Oh Lord, I got stuck. Fallout 3.
A malfunctioning ASP heard the commotion and joined the party. I needed to find a rocket launcher. The vultures beat us there, set fire to the facility. Gojulan announced herself over a PA. She was inside. And she had a special guest waiting for us.
They're stuck in the wall. Look at that.
The vultures beat us there, set fire to the facility. Gojulan announced herself over a PA. She was inside. And she had a special guest waiting for us. We cleared the plaza. All that was left was to get inside. The blast knocked us back. We heard the building creaking. It could collapse at any moment. Hendricks thought we should stand down. It wasn't worth it.
You push back.
We needed that dossier. At this point, it was our only lead to Deimos. I told Hendricks to call in exfil. I'd take the safe house. Bishop had told us the document was hidden in the panic room within the facility.
Who was in the panic room?
Her. Kane. Our guardian angel. Someone had beaten the hell out of her. Gojulan. She was there for the same thing I was. The same thing our friend was. The dossier.
Do it. Kill her. Kill his host. Prove yourself worthy.
Did you kill her?
I struggled. Panicked. I acted in the heat of the moment.
And the file on Deimos?
Most likely it was reduced to Kindle. Gone. Or so we thought. Hendricks called in transport. Singapore was another dead end. But we needed a few answers from Kane. Starting with who the hell was she? And what was she doing in an abandoned CIA safe house? The truth. After the aquifers, we certainly hadn't expected to see Kane again, let alone here. She wanted the same thing we did. The data drive on Deimos. Better yet, she knew where it was. It was moved from the safe house to a CIA black station in the quarantine zone.
Did she say why Gojulan was trying to kill her?
It wasn't Gojulan. Julan was a puppet of Deimos, and Deimos wanted Kane dead. Guess he didn't like her very much.
Did you trust her?
No, not yet. Our guard was up, but if she could get us to the black station, it was worth a shot. The Singapore quarantine zone. We never thought we'd be back here.
Bad memories?
You know damn well it certainly wasn't good ones, Doc. The place was a living, breathing reminder of the incident 5 years ago. We'd be in and out quick. We weren't staying any longer than we had to. Find out who this Deimos asshole was and get the hell out of Dodge. Kane said the data drive on Deimos was encrypted and separated into 2 pieces. We needed both to access the drive. Like a lock and key.
The lock, I assume, was at the Black Station. Where was the key?
The key. That was down by the docks. Undead Central. Heavy hostiles. We brought a DNI-equipped micro-missile launcher. Couldn't be too careful. That, and Command had prepped a drone strike to wipe out most of the dock. But with the high winds from the incoming superstorm, well, no guarantees it'd work. We grabbed our spike anchors in case we needed to be nailed down. After the docks, our rendezvous with Kane was set for an abandoned police station. Hendricks took point.
More vultures.
Preying on the weak. Since the fall of the Immortals, they'd inherited all of Singapore. Turned the place into some twisted version of the Wild West. After the events at the safe house, we caught their attention. They weren't exactly thrilled with us on their turf, and were taking it out on the locals to find us.
Why didn't you step in? You could have saved them.
Calculated risks. We needed to stay quiet and lay low.
But there's always a chance, isn't there?
Chance is a billion-sided die. You like the odds of that? If they didn't die today, they'd die tomorrow. If not tomorrow, the day after. One way or another, death was coming for all of us. Nobody was getting out alive. If we tried to save them, it could be our necks in those collars. We weren't there to save 2 people. We were there to save all the rest of us. We needed to get to the Black Station, raising as little alarm as possible. The last thing we needed were the dead and vultures after our throats. Turns out the odds were already stacked against us. The winds were picking up. The superstorm could hit at any moment. Good thing we grabbed those spike anchors. We were gonna need them. The plan was to wait on the drone strike. Once it did its part, we'd move in. The missiles were ineffective, the wind too strong, and now that ocean liner looked like it was about to rip free. That thing would pulverize the dock, taking the data drive with it. Hendricks said fuck it. We were built to kill the dead. No reason to switch it up now. We secured the first part of the drive and uploaded the information to Kane. Hendricks moved to sweep the wheelhouse. The howling wind told us we had to hit it fast and quick. Superstorm hit sooner than expected. The barge ripped free and barreled towards us. We had to leave and hang on for dear life. We'd been set to rendezvous at an abandoned police station, but we were off route. We cut through the flooded subway to save time. With the dead cleared out, we moved toward our rendezvous. Turns out we weren't the only living things in there. A vulture got the drop on us, determined to reduce us to scrap metal. He'd hit a big payday with us cornered.
You were a payday to him? How so?
We were dead killers. You break us down to spare parts, you can fetch a pretty penny on the black market.
But you were there to fight the dead. You were an ally.
Maybe in 2070, when we were the saviors of mankind. By 2075, everybody wanted a piece of us. This guy would have gotten his share, too. But Kane did her part to make sure that didn't happen.
She was well trained. Was she CIA? Winslow Accord?
She was just someone who was always in the right place, at the right time. Before we could move on the Black Station, we had other problems.
What had gone wrong?
We hadn't taken the scavengers into account. They'd figured out they had dead killers in their midst. Kane told us they had a comms relay ahead. If we scrambled them, it could lead the vultures away from the Black Station, at least long enough for us to get what we needed.
So much for maintaining a low profile, I suppose.
What did I tell you? Thing about dead killers is there's always a plan B. You don't create the problems, just the solutions. You adapt to what's thrown at you.
Adapt or die.
Yeah. Adapt or die. We plan to regroup with Kane outside of Chinatown. With their comms scrambled, we had one less nuisance to deal with at the Black Station. Now to get the drive and get the hell out of this shithole.
You couldn't take being here, could you? You felt haunted coming back to this city.
The feeling had latched onto me at the safe house. Like I was being watched. Something had their eyes on me.
Not someone.
And I just felt something pulling me, guiding me. I couldn't shake it. Our rendezvous with Kane was just ahead. By the time we rendezvoused with Kane, the dead were crawling all over the street.
What was Kane's plan?
Hit him in the gullet, then bag and tag. Gotta admit, The girl wasn't afraid of a fight. She seemed to welcome it. Relish
Like
it.
yourself.
Like a berserker. Like a dead killer.
What did you find in the Black Station?
Slaughtered CIA staff. We weren't the only ones looking for the data drives. It was a gruesome scene. Kane quickly assembled the drive.
Why didn't you tell me? You created Project Corvus, wrote the report. You pulled me along like you had no clue what I was talking about.
If I had told you, the impact would not have been the same. You know that. That you could not recall is no fault of mine.
After the Black Station, we had to find you. Find out what you knew.
I was in Cairo at the time. Your friend, Khalil.
He brought you to Ramsey Station, humanity's last holdout in Egypt. We knew who Deimos was, where he was from, but we didn't know why. He'd taken over the world, but to do what? To find out why, we had to talk to you.
pieces were coming together. Virus 6115, Taylor's team, the undead. It all came back to Deimos. All we needed was you. Hendricks was unhinged. The idea his friends betrayed mankind to help a demigod. The concept alone was insane, let alone his friends' involvement. Kane was in it to the end. By now, she was as obsessed with stopping Deimos as we were. We weren't ready for Cairo, no matter what we thought. This place. If there was ever a place that was hell on Earth, this was it. It wasn't just the city. The entirety of northern Africa had fallen to the undead. The walls were covered with memories of the dead, those taken by 6115, lost to this wasteland, the desert for the undead. It was the last place on Earth you'd want to be, but you chose to hide there. Why?
For that very reason. I hoped no one would come for me.
Why? What were you running from?
From what you saw, Deimos.
Khalil was waiting. He was holding you in an interrogation room.
How was Khalil? Happy to see you.
It wasn't a warm welcome. As far as he was concerned, we owed him one for grabbing you. More than a few men gave their lives to bring you in. He hoped it was worth it.
He was angry?
He was tired. Tired of fighting a losing battle. Khalil was a realist. He'd fight to the death for country. But he knew what was coming.
And what was coming?
Extinction. The undead changed everything. The NRC were hit first and hardest. We saw that in Ethiopia. The damage done by the dead didn't even take into account what the water wars did. When the continent dried up and the Nile River Coalition took war to Egypt over the Nile, the last water supply. They were so busy fighting they didn't realize it too had dried up. But the rise of the undead? How do you fight an enemy that doesn't need water? Khalil's rage wasn't misplaced. It wasn't personal. He was just barely holding on.
What did you hope to learn from speaking to me?
How to stop Deimos. Everyone has a weakness. The whole base was on edge. You could feel it in the air. The dead were moving on Ramses. An assault was imminent. Khalil didn't know how much time we had with you. Hendricks demanded to know why we weren't informed.
How did Khalil respond to his anger?
WA command was down. How was he meant to get his message through? Besides, they still had their dead system. They used to knock enemy aircraft out of the sky, but now they were used to eviscerate the undead. If any came too close, the laser cannons would take them out. Khalil led us to interrogation. He warned us our time was limited. No telling when the dead might attack. But if we could get answers out of you, maybe we could find a way to fight back. You certainly weren't too happy to see us.
You...
I needed you to be willing to talk.
Come on.
The assault on Ramses was beginning. The base was about to be overrun, and we owed Khalil that favor. Time to take the fight to the dead. We weren't ready for the station assault. I don't know how the dead got in. Maybe an abandoned tunnel, an infected civilian, or maybe the vultures let them through. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter. Egyptian army came over comms. They'd never seen a horde this size move on the station. If we had any chance to stop them, we needed to reinforce the eastern checkpoint, a narrow passageway the dead would need to traverse to reach Ramses. Cairo. She was a city on fire. Except for the Egyptian army and a smattering of civilians hidden away. She'd fallen to the dead. Khalil didn't say it, but I could hear it in his voice. He knew this was the last stand. If they lost this battle, they'd lose the city.
Comment, subscribe. Thank you for watching.